Good evening, all. So sorry. I guess there's been network glitches. Um, yeah, I welcome you all to this episode of our usual training weekends, our monthly training weekends. So, this weekend we'll be discussing efficient time management, its role in the lives of volunteer medical laboratory scientists. I don't know if some of us are online. So at the end of my presentation, I'll be taking few questions. Then, if you are not online at the moment and you manage to come across this on our YouTube channel, you can leave a comment or drop your question at the comment section. I will definitely make our time to reply your questions. So this evening, like I rightly mentioned, we'll be discussing efficient time management, its role in the lives of volunteer medical laboratory scientists. We all are volunteer medical laboratory scientists, and we know what we are called to do. So, aside going about our day-to-day activities as medical laboratory scientists, researchers, or any other role we are playing out there in the um, labor market, we all have decided to use our skills as medical laboratory scientists for social good to help improve lives in our local communities. So, of recent, I kind of observed that most of us are struggling with time management. I'm also guilty because that's one thing I struggle with, but I've kind of made some improvements and I'm still a work in progress because managing our time properly has a way of helping us maximize our potentials and then achieve not just our targets for the day, but our long-term targets and then within a specified period of time. So what is time management? So looking at the word management, it simply means organization. So this is more like organizing yourself within a specified time or managing your time properly so that you can actually achieve your targets. And it is a habit. Yeah, it is kind of a habit you have to adopt. Um, Time management should be a lifestyle, not just a habit. So, in managing your time, there are tips for proper time management, for effective time management, since it is something we all struggle with. And speaking of time management as medical laboratory scientists, we render quality healthcare services to people, and we know the importance of the role we play in the health sector. Yeah, that is primarily diagnosis. But I also emphasize that most of us are researchers, some of us into academia, yeah, as lecturers or teachers. So we already know the importance of time in our professional life as medical laboratory scientists. So as a med lab scientist working on the bench, time management is of essence, especially the turnaround time, how long it takes you to produce an accurate and precise laboratory results that um, would be beneficial to the patient in question. So it's not all about coming up with a quality diagnosis like a reproducible result, but when you come up with an accurate, precise result, and it it is not timely. Perhaps before it got to the clinician, something had gone wrong. So in case of emergency and all that, what do we do? Do we prioritize the health of the patient, or we go about gisting with our colleagues in the laboratory? So it's more like I'm kind of trying to reawaken that time consciousness in us once more. And you cannot talk about time management without talking about priority, like setting your priorities right. So I mentioned a case of that's the laboratory-based case as a medical laboratory scientist, and you are faced with emergency situations and other. So you have to actually prioritize. Okay, this patient urgently needs this result because this is a case of emergency. So um, I think ethically, for a patient that doesn't need the result urgently, you can actually do away with the person's samples momentarily and then attend to the urgent situation, like someone in accident and emergency unit, ensure that the results comes out almost immediately so that the clinician can commence treatment. So you can't leave such urgent sample and then start attending to someone you've asked to, like a sample of someone you've already asked to come back in a week time or 2 days time or in some days time. So there is need for prioritization. So those of us that are researchers, we also know the essence of time in our research projects. Perhaps you have a grant that you want to apply for. Of course, there is a deadline, and you need to come up with your proposal before the deadline. Or you are doing a laboratory-based research, and you really need to, yeah, you have to actually maximize your time, perhaps as part of a project, and then there is a deadline for you to actually get the results or data ready for and then make the paper ready for publication. Or you're a teacher, you are lecturing in the university, and yeah, you teach students. You also need to properly manage your time so that your students can actually benefit so much from you. So, with my little experience, being outside the country, I've come to realize the importance of time management. Of recent, I had a presentation here in the UK. So, it was part of our assessment. It was kind of a component of the module's assessments, because for my school, we do have different components. You are being assessed, let's say for a particular course, here they call it module. You have like 2 or 3 components, but basically for my program, just 2 components. So maybe they will tell you that this component you'll be assessed based on your presentation skills, right? While this component will be assessed based on your critical writing skills or critical thinking skills. Yeah, because when you critically evaluate literatures, you also have to critically write about what you've read or what you've understood from those literature, and then infuse your thoughts, or yeah, of course you have to back your suggestions or your opinions up with scientific findings. Yeah. So, um, speaking of that, during the presentation, actually, sorry I digressed, but I wanted to like buttress a point, yeah, about this time management. So during the presentation, I exceeded the time, I think either by 2 minutes or so, and I was penalized for that. Marks were deducted. Some marks were deducted because I didn't Sorry for the interruption. I think my network got disconnected. So I said time is of essence. Yes, here and then in some settings, there are organizations, hospitals, places where you'll be working, and it will be so imperative that you keep to time. And when they tell you this is 2 minutes, it should be 2 minutes. This should be done in a space of 10 minutes. 10 minutes is 10 minutes. It would even be best that you finish before the 10 minutes, but it will be worse, or it might cost you so much if you are to exceed that time. Another instance is unlike what is obtainable in Nigeria in terms of transportation. Here, um, trains, buses have time. So when you get to the train station, you have to wait till the time for that train to board. When you're at the bus station, you have to wait till it is time um, for the bus to arrive and pick people that are waiting. So usually you might have to check the time for trains. Yes. So that's the best thing to do, the time for trains and buses before you leave so that you can meet up. So when you're attending an event or you're going to a particular place, um, it's paramount you check the time for the buses, trains, or trams that you have to take so as to be there on time. So at times, personally, I calculate using 30 minutes earlier so that I can meet, kind of catch my bus or catch my train and get to that place before 30 minutes. Why I normally prefer working with 30 minutes upfront is I try to factor some issues like delays, traffic, and all whatnot. So you have to factor things like that so as to make sure that okay, all things being equal, you. But most of the times you might be able to get to your destination because if not because of traffic or maybe one or two things on a norm, this is the time for the bus means this is the time the bus will come out. Nothing will change that except maybe some issues, traffic and all that. This is the time for the train, and that will be it. If there might be a change, you also be informed that oh, this will be delayed by so time and all that. So that's to tell you how time is of essence here. And then we as Nigerian trained personnel, why or people who have lived in a country where um, some persons or few persons have not really paid critical attention to effective time management, it might be difficult to unlearn such attitude, but we have to try. We just have to try to do away with that less a fair attitude towards time. So yeah, because it's of essence. when you are being invited to to an occasion by an organization, by what time do you get to that place? When you are being shortlisted for an interview, by what time do you on um, get to the place of the interview? If it is online, by what time do you come on board? So if it is an online interview, most times it's best you you log in or you sign in 5 minutes, 10 minutes before time. It's best you are waiting instead of staying till exactly that time, and then perhaps you start struggling with network glitches, or you find it difficult. Perhaps that would be the time you find out that maybe the link is not working. So you have to actually pay so much attention to time. Um, I've come up with some time management tips, and I believe by the time I'm done, we'll be able to pick some values from what is being discussed this evening. So, the number one thing I have here is creating your own calendar. So, technology has really helped us evolve as humans. So we have some apps like Calendar, Google Calendar. Um, those of us that use iPhones, or some persons that use iPhones, um, iPhone has its own calendar. So I think some smartphones have do come with calendar. So the calendar app. So you can actually leverage on that. So you create a calendar for yourself. Outlook also has its own calendar. Personally, I use either Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. Then, but there is this fantastical, and then there is Calendly. So either of them that you find helpful. When you go on Apple Store, or that's um, yeah, or Play Store, Apple Store or Play Store. Um, you can once you search for calendar, you see a plethora of options, an array of calendars you can actually choose from. You can as well go online to maybe check the ratings of these calendars, and then all their features, and then know which one is best for you. So another thing that would be of help in proper time management is time budgeting. And when what I mean by time budgeting is priority, like setting your priority, putting your task for the day in perspectives, like, oh, this is more demanding, or I should focus more on this, I should pay less attention to this. So when you budget your time, allocate, oh, for this task, it should take me 3 hours. Why this other task will take me 30 minutes or 1 hour. So you can also prioritize based on urgency. So this is the most important, like I have to do this before the day ends. So you prioritize your time. I already talked about creating your calendars. So in addition to creating a calendar, you can set reminders. So you can set the likes of alarm, or you use physical planner, or on that calendar. Yeah, I think mine does it. On my calendar, I can actually set an alarm. And the good thing is, some of these calendars would give you an option for you to be notified 30 minutes before the main time. So, yeah, so before, like 30 minutes before the task, these calendar alarms might beep, and you'll be notified that, oh, in 30 minutes, so you get prepared ahead of time. Then you can build a personalized schedule. Yeah, then what I mean by this is understanding what works best for you. So this involves knowing the time when you are more energetic and you can achieve more. So Personally, I tend to achieve more in the morning when I'm kind of out from the bed, yeah, fresh out of the bed. I tend to achieve better. I feel very energized. But in the night, when I've done so many tasks and all that, when I come back home, depending on the time, I might feel so weak, like very weak, that I won't be able to do much. Or maybe I'll be on a particular task and then perhaps, yeah, the human body. So I might start feeling sleepy, and that would be the end of it for the day, which also takes us back to priority, like trying to do the most important task when you are energetic. Some persons, I have a friend that works very well in the night. So I think during the day she sleeps basically. Yeah, she sleeps during the day. She's nocturnal. So when she sleeps during the day, in the night she's fully awake, and that's when she does her things. I don't know how she configured herself or her system to um, adapt, or but it doesn't work for me. So understand yourself, don't copy another person, just be you. Study your system, study yourself, and then know what works best for you, and then follow that. Then you can consider delegating roles, especially in work setting. Yeah, in work setting, you can consider delegating roles instead of piling up or gathering everything, like you are hoarding everything, you want to do everything. You can dedicate some roles that you feel the next person can handle, depending on the setting where you work or where you find yourself. So it helps. Delegation helps at times. It makes you more productive when you have a helping hand or kind of an assistance. Another thing is knowing when to say no. This is difficult. I struggled with this because most of the times, but I think of recent, I've learned how to say no. Yeah, because I think the task I have currently kind of are much. So, like, even when I don't want to say no, I am forced to say no because I know that I am being helpful to the person requesting for that help, so that the person can be aware on time that I may not be able to offer this help within that stipulated time. So at times I will tell my friends, look, I really would have loved to help or assist, but you said you need this feedback, you need this within a space of 2 weeks, but I'm very much busy this period. Yeah, and it's most of the times it's true that I've already planned myself for that 2 weeks, and then collecting extra work will make me inefficient. I might end up disappointing the person. So the best thing I do is, look, I am busy this period, but in 3 weeks' time, I'll be free. So most of them will tell you, yes, they don't mind waiting till that time. So such a person, I've already had a deal with the person, or you are not free this week and next week, but the upper week you'll be free. So I don't mind waiting till then. So when I'm planning for that particular week, I will also factor the person or the task I am to perform for the person. So, but if the person cannot wait till when I'm free, the person is, no, I can't do this period. I'm sorry, but I have this person that can actually help or assist. Why don't you meet this person? He might be free, or she might be free. Then create time for fun. Like, this is very important, especially as young medical laboratory scientists. So even the old among us, the elderly and the elder MLS among us, um, you have to create time for fun, for relaxation. So all work and no play, we already know that cliche. So all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So you should always make out time to rest or do one or two things or have fun. So you choose what works for you. Perhaps seeing a movie, perhaps taking a nap, or reading a book, or taking a walk, or having a conversation, or spending time with loved ones. So you can seek for help when it is difficult. Yeah, that's another point. You can seek for help. You can um, meet someone who you think or who you feel is a professional, and he or she can actually be of help to you. You can reach out to the person for help on how to handle your issues with time management. Then this is very key, this particular point. Set realistic and flexible goals. Yeah. So I understand that most of us are quite ambitious. We want to do a whole lot of things at the same time. We want to multitask, ambitious person and all that. So it is good to be ambitious, but it's also good to take it one step at a time. Yeah, because when you have so much doing at the same time, at times it gets so overwhelming. Yeah, it gets so overwhelming that you might end up not completing any of those tasks. So set goals that are realistic and goals that are quite flexible. This point is also of utmost importance because I think I've been adopting this approach and it has been helpful. Yeah. Make the most of waiting times. When you are waiting for a train, or you are waiting at the airport to catch your flight, or you are waiting for a bike man to arrive, or your Uber driver to get to your compound or your street, or that period when you are walking home you are walking home or going to a function or any location, you can actually utilize that. That might be the best time for you to send a mail. It can also be the best time for you to call your friends. So I completed a task. Yes, I can remember completing a task at the airport. That was in Abuja. I was meant to fly from Abuja to Owerri, and my flight was delayed, I think, by 4 hours. So at the waiting room, I was like, I don't even know what to do. So I can't just stay like that. And I remember that I had a paper to edit. Yeah, an article to edit. So I turned on my laptop and started working on it. Like, I was so shocked that I started that I started editing that paper there at the airport, there at the waiting room, and finished 1 hour before our boarding time. So, like, this would have been a time that I would have used for another thing, but I don't know what actually came over me. The suggestion I had that suggestion, like my mind was telling me, why don't you do this now since you have 4 hours to stay here waiting? So I had to like turn on my laptop and it paid off. And funny enough, that was a paper that I have been procrastinating. So I maximized that opportunity. Another thing I do here that helps is um at times I might be traveling from where I live to another city and I might be on the train for like 1 hour or more or even 30 minutes. Like I hardly travel without my laptop. So anywhere I go, basically, because it's kind of a mini laptop, so I can actually carry it. So what I do, anywhere I'm going to, I just carry the laptop. So if I'm on the train, I don't have anything doing. I just turn it on, then I start doing my task, yeah, with it. So I found it quite helpful. So that time, like I'm using the time for two things: working on my um, task for the day, and then traveling, like a kind of multitasking too. Although at times it's good to multitask, but other times you might have to take it one step at a time. So then another thing I do is if I'm walking home sometimes, if I'm walking home sometimes, perhaps I have to walk for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, depending. That's usually my best time to answer call. So that's or kind of reply some text. So, but most of the times I prefer answering calls. But you have to be careful depending on where you live or your area. So answering call in a busy road on a busy road is actually wrong. You might endanger yourself. But if it's a lonely part and all that, so you can actually do that. More like just um all I'm trying to say is that waiting period or yeah, you are able to get to an occasion or an event some hours, minutes before time. You can actually catch up with friends or reply that mail or do one or two things before the actual event starts. So anytime you are waiting, you can actually use it to do some things. You can play music. Some persons prefer reading while traveling, while some watch movies, maybe on the train, or anywhere, like any means of transportation. So another thing is block distractions. Yeah. So this is quite important. Yeah, especially if you have targets for the day. So you have to do away with distraction. So it might entail you locking yourself up in a room and then kind of isolating yourself and then ensuring that you finish up with your task. Some of the times, especially when I was doing my youth service, what I do is because I was sharing a flat with two or three persons, with two persons, yeah. So I was sharing a flat with two persons, and we actually have that relationship. We talk to each other. We can knock on each other's door at any time to request for help. So if I want to do something that's okay, I don't need any distraction that period, what I do is I knock on their doors. Please, I'll be busy this period from this hour to this hour, from this time to this time. So I don't need distraction, like don't knock on my door, but just be aware that I'm inside. So, but by this time, if you don't hear from me, you can actually knock on my door. Just don't disturb me for like 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours. So you can actually adopt that technique. So other things you can do is maybe leaving that place where you'll be distracted. Yeah. So if it's in school, you can go to the library instead of perhaps studying in the lecture hall where anybody can walk in and then start up a conversation with you. You can just go to the library. Yeah. Another thing you can do because one of our major distractions this period is social media, our our phones. We want to know what is happening. Yeah. So that's awareness. consciousness that, especially somebody like me, I think sometimes when I'm particularly interested in something, I might find myself involuntarily going to that place to look for, going to that site to look for what I'm looking for, or kind of get the information I needed. So during the presidential election, I think I spent so much time on Twitter. I was so interested in knowing what was happening in Nigeria and how the whole stuff was happening, that like every minute I was checking my phone to know what is happening in Nigeria, checking Twitter apps from Twitter, I'm on Instagram from Instagram, I'm on Facebook and all that. So that period I was like, guy, it's more like you won't be productive this period. So it got to a point, I think after the elections on that Saturday, on Sunday, I had to like tell myself, no, you have to do away with this. Just um, hold on till the results are announced. So that was how I actually um, was able to put myself together and then carry on with my personal task. Yeah. So at times, because of issues like that, like being addicted to social media and all that, at times I may not be able to help myself. So what I do is, yeah, because my data is always on, and yeah, there's constant Wi-Fi. Yeah. So basically, at times I might be working on something, but my phone is close to me. Then a message pops up. I look at the notification. Ah, I need to reply to this person. Only for me to swipe up, and then a minute a minute reply will turn to maybe 1 hour of conversation. Maybe I'll start replying other messages before you know it, 2 hours, 3 hours, and all that. And I know most of us are struggling with that. So what I do is, most of the times I give my phone to my flatmate. I tell him, hold this phone. Even if I'm to come back for this phone before this time, don't give it to me. You can only give me this phone when it is this particular time. After this time, you can give it back to me. But before this particular time, don't bother, even when I come back in. So that's how I actually discipline myself and get to work. Other times, he may not be around to do that task. So what I do is I discipline myself. Perhaps I leave my phone upstairs and then go downstairs, or maybe I will turn off my Wi-Fi and my data entirely, and then keep my phone where I won't be seeing it. So by so doing, I concentrate more. So another issue is do not strive for perfection. Yeah, yeah. Don't and this goes hand in hand with procrastination. You you okay, for procrastination, you are telling yourself there is still time. There is still time. And before you know it, you'll be kind of struggling to beat deadlines. Let's say you are given 4 weeks deadline, that's 1 month deadline. You say, ah, that's a whole lot. So let's let me assume that as a student, let's say postgraduate students, we are given an assessment to come up with, let's say, 3,000 words article. Yeah, perhaps a review article of 3,000 words. Yeah, that's enough time. there's enough time. So, but I think it would be best if you can actually tell yourself that, oh, for this, for this week, sorry, my network got interrupted. A call was coming in. So, at times, it's best you actually split the task. Instead of waiting till 1 week to write, to come up with the 3,000 words, you can actually split it. Okay, for this week, or yeah, for this week, I will write um 700 words or maybe 1,000 words. So, yeah, 1,000 words. So, this week that I'll be writing 1,000 words, each day I will write 200 words, at least 200 words. The next day I write 200 words. By so doing, by the end of that 1 week, I should come up with 1,000 words. So you split it that way. So maybe you use the last week for editing, proofreading, and all that. So that's the best way to actually do that instead of procrastinating. So and then at times when we procrastinate is because we are kind of waiting for inspiration, or maybe what we think is the perfect time for us to actually launch that project or carry out that task. No, it's okay for you to try and fail than not trying at all. So it's best you give your best, you try your best using um, what you can get or what you can offer, yeah, at that moment. So even if you don't get it right that particular time, you must have picked some lessons, and then you know where you might have missed it, and then pick the lesson. So the next time when you'll be faced with that same challenge, you've already um, pinpointed your areas of inefficiency, then you leverage on that to make it right the second time. So there is no perfect time, then you don't need to wait for inspiration all the time. So you have to start. Yeah, just that. At times, one thing with all issues like this is at times when we start, that's when we get the inspiration. By the time we start, let's say for an assignment or a project, let's use an assignment for instance, you are to write, you're waiting for inspiration for you to start writing. At times, you just have to start writing. By the time you write one sentence, you might that might actually give you more inspiration for you to build. Like that first sentence you wrote, ideas will start flowing on how you can actually build on that first sentence. Before you know it, you've come up with multiple paragraphs, and then before you will know it, you are done with the paper. So that's basically that. So a quick recap of tonight's session. Yeah, a quick recap of tonight's session. I said proper time management is of essence in our day-to-day day activities as medical laboratory scientists. Not just meeting the turnaround time on the bench, but also being able to, it will also help us to carry on with our personal task. Yeah. Then I said that in trying to effectively manage our time, we need to learn how to prioritize our task, like time budgeting, um, and then put our task or our projects in perspectives in order of hierarchy of importance or need. Then we can actually create a calendar using any of the apps that are readily available, set reminders. Um, we can build or come up with our own schedule, understanding our body and then knowing the time we are more efficient in the morning, in the afternoon, in the night. Just do you like ensure that we leverage on our um, our personal time, like some the time that is peculiar to us. Personally, I said I'm more energetic in the morning. So some persons are more energetic in the afternoon or in the night. So that time you are more energetic should be the time you use for most of your tasks. Then you can delegate responsibilities where necessary. It helps. Then know when to say no to people. Yeah. Um, and then knowing how best to present your no. Yeah. So that the person understand that you have other tasks at the moment. Because if you continue to say yes, 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 you may not be able to deliver the task, your own task and that of other persons that entrusted their um, issues in your hands. Then you should create time for fun. It helps you relax. So you can get yourself involved in exercise. You can take a nap from time to time so that you don't break down, you don't overload yourself with work. You can seek for help when it becomes very difficult. You should always, as much as possible, set realistic and flexible goals. Don't be too hard on yourself. Then make the most of your waiting times. When you are waiting, maybe waiting for one thing or the other, you can actually use that waiting time for another thing. So while waiting for maybe a bus or for an event to start, you can use that waiting period to reply mails, make that call, or do other things that you can be able to do within that time frame. Then learn to block distraction, learn to do away with distraction. If it's your cell phone or anything like perhaps humans, you can isolate yourself, yeah, till you are done with your task. Then yeah, even if you have to use your phone, perhaps you work with your phone. um some apps have this do not disturb mode. You can put your your phone on that do not disturb mode so that people, at times some persons would be able to see that, oh, this person is on do not disturb mode. That's to say this person might actually be busy, so they may not be able to disturb you with lots of messages. Yeah. Then try as much as possible to not procrastinate, and then yeah, and then don't be too hard on yourself trying to make it perfect or do it the perfect way. Just try, always try as much as possible. Yeah, it's okay to take the baby steps. We didn't learn how to walk all of a sudden. We took that leap of faith and then had our first baby steps. Yeah, before we had our feet strong on the ground. So when you are faced with tasks that you think might be too big for yourself or too big for you, it's okay for you to seek help. It's okay for you to try. Don't wait till you have it all figured out for you to try. So we've come to the end of today's session. Yeah, for this training weekend. Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone who is online and who might have questions. So I'll be here for the next 10 minutes to entertain questions. But if nobody is online, or if anyone doesn't have any question, then that would be the end of this weekend's training session. But just like I rightly mentioned when I started, we have a YouTube channel. So recordings like this or teachings like this, sessions like this, usually we upload them on the YouTube channel. So you can also engage us in the comment section, and either myself or any of our leaders would be able to reply. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, especially for making our time to be part of this weekend training session. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you in subsequent sessions.